This is Gloria Donahue from Nana's Cookery, and it's so good to have you visit the kitchen again, or maybe it's your first time. My grandchildren got me into doing this, and I can't tell you how much I enjoy doing it and hearing from you. Today we're going to do Irish soda bread. I don't really care for soda bread. I make it once a year at St. Patrick's Day for our dinner, but my husband and I always say, I really rather have yeast bread, but we do it. But then a few years ago, my sister Pat brought the soda bread, and we all really liked it, and it's so unusual, and it's so quick, and it's just done a little differently, and I think you'll really enjoy it. I'm going to read you the ingredients first, and then I'm going to put it together for you. It takes 3½ cups of all-purpose flour, a ½ cup of sugar, 2 tablespoons of caraway, or if you're like me, I found I had about a tablespoon in my pantry, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon salt, 1/2 teaspoon baking soda, 2 eggs, this is a surprise, 2 cups of sour cream, and 3/4 of a cup of raisins. So we're going to put all the dry ingredients together in this big bowl. When you bake it, one thing you'll need, which you wouldn't normally need for soda bread, normally you just shape it and bake it. This you're going to find, I guess my word for it is ploppy. It's going to be a very loose dough. And so you actually do it in a springform pan, a 9-inch springform pan, which is the pan, with where you can open it on the sides and take it apart. I have an unusual one that my granddaughter Tracy gave me. I've never seen it before or since. And it has a rubber ring that goes around. So you probably do not have a springform like this, but it's done the exact same way. You just use a regular springform. So we're going to take our flour, and that's 3½ cups. And again, you always pack flour in lightly. You never pack it down. 1. I have to be careful that I don't get distracted and either overdo or underdo. 2. 3 1/2. So now we've got our flour. I already measured out the sugar. So we have a ½ cup of sugar. I want ½ teaspoon of baking powder. I'm going to put in my caraway, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Now remember, it's very easy if you have a cup and you have 1/4 cup. Okay, 4 times 1/4 will make 1 cup. So it's easy to work once you know the cups. But if you're just starting to cook, try and remember that 3 teaspoons equal a tablespoon. 4 tablespoons equal 1/4 cup. If you remember those things, you can really double, triple, do a half, as long as you know those few basic things. The others are pretty, 1/4 teaspoon is obviously 1/4 teaspoon, that type of thing. But 3 teaspoons make a tablespoon, 4 tablespoons make 1/4 cup. Now I happen to have some measuring spoons that do odd things. So let me see here. Okay, well, I don't need the odd one. I just need my regular teaspoon. And I'm going to do 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And you can't keep these things too long, the baking soda, the baking powder. Put them in a little water if you're not sure, and if it doesn't start to bubble up, then it probably isn't any good anymore. When I say you can't keep it, you can't keep it forever, but you don't have to replace it every 2-3 months or anything. So we've got the flour, the sugar, the caraway, the salt, the baking soda, and now 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And I'm going to whisk this together. And whisks are nice for things like this, for dry ingredients. Because I just want to get them all mixed. And because there's really no difference in color, you can't really tell like, oh yeah, that's whisked, because I see that that dark thing has worked its way in. So just do it so it's general. Now I'm going to put the eggs and the sour cream in here. And you know my rule on eggs, and that is, some people may be perfectly willing to do it directly into what they're doing. If I go a full year and don't have a piece of shell, I'll do that. Hasn't happened yet. So I always break the egg in something first and then put it into the bowl I'm using. And that way I know there's no shell in there. It's harder to get the shell out. If you have to get a piece of shell out, it's much easier to use the eggshell itself to go down and get that little piece. And now we're going to whisk this with, I need 2 cups. I'll loosen the eggs a little bit. This is whisking eggs, okay? That's what they mean when they say whisking eggs. And it just means to break up the yolk and the white. You're not beating it heavily or anything. You're just, really making it one solution. And now I'm going to use, this is regular sour cream. I use regular sour cream. I have to say I don't buy the low fat. I'm not an expert on substituting that, because I guess I buy full fat everything. So we've got a cup. Now I'm going to switch to a spoon because I think that'll get caught in the whisk. As you can see, this really goes together quickly, and I've never ever seen a recipe that called for a loaf of bread that called for 2 cups of sour cream. But I can tell you it's good. I've made it enough times that I can tell you that. Started with clean hands. Keep a towel near me so I can wash my hands and dry them. I think I'll go back to the whisk. I think maybe we'll see how that works. I just want to combine the sour cream and the eggs. Yeah, and the whisk is doing a good job, and it's thin enough I don't think it's going to get caught in the wires. That's the only thing. If you try to mix something with a whisk and it's a heavier dough, then it gets all caught up in the wires and it's hard. But this sour cream and eggs is really loose. Now we're going to stir it into the dry. Now this will take me a few minutes. So I have a little story to tell you. You couldn't have known this, but when the peanut butter tart was put on YouTube in the fall, I was in the middle of cancer treatment, radiation and chemo. I had wonderful support from my family, my church, my friends, wonderful, and I was really doing great. But I was just surprised how touched I was when I discovered that Tom had put it on, and I was getting comments, "Oh, Nan, it's good to see you back. Oh, Nan," and it makes you feel so good. So I would advise that you not only make comments to me, make comments to your friends. Something like, "Oh, your hair looks so pretty in the light," or "I love your eyes when you smile," or "You did such a good job." We just all bloom under nice comments, I think. And I have a funny story from years ago. When I was 15, I spent a year on Campobello Island, a little island, and lived with an aunt and uncle. And I was in grade 10, and there were 13 kids in grade 10, and we were in the same room with grade 9. And I loved it there. Well, fast forward 40 or 50 years, I'm on the same island having lunch with my cousin in a little restaurant on the island. And she sees an older woman that she knows. Now, I'm going to use false names because I don't have permission. So she said, "Mrs. Jones, you probably don't remember my cousin Gloria, but she went to school with your Mary." And Mrs. Jones said, "Oh, I know who Gloria is." That kind of surprised me. I didn't even think we'd ever met. And she remembered a story that her daughter came home from school one day and twirled around and said, "Mama, Gloria said my coat was beautiful. Oh geez, now I'm gonna cry. The mother didn't remember it because it was me who said it. She didn't remember it because of what I said. She remembered it because of how it made her daughter feel. And that's what we can do with our good comments, and that's why bad comments hurt so much too. So if you're tempted, don't say it if it's just gonna hurt and it has no purpose. That is my sermon for today. I'm back to stirring this up. I said it was easy, and it is, but now it's getting very thick. And I want to make sure that it's all incorporated. So I'm going to keep, in fact, I'll tell you, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go in there with my hands. When in doubt, the hands always work, because I want to incorporate all that flour into there. But you're going to see when I'm done, it's still a floppy dough. Well, we've incorporated the wet and the dry together, and now I'm going to add the raisins. And again, I'm going to do it by hand because it's just pretty hard to do it with a spoon. I'm wondering now, I don't think I've ever used my dough hook on this bread, but obviously no reason why I couldn't have it. That probably would have worked fine. But I'm just going to work the raisins in. You can see this is really a wet dough. I want to show you how wet and loose it is. You really would not want to put this on a just a cookie sheet or something, because it'll spread. It won't keep its shape well. It's not thick enough. Those of you who bake bread, you can get a feeling from how bread is going to spread. Well, I'm going to dump this basically in the springform pan, and you can see that is why it requires that instead of a regular thing. It is just too gloppy to put on a cookie sheet, but it will bake up nicely. Just gonna spread it out. That's good. I'm going to put it in the oven. It bakes at 350 for 45 to 50 minutes, 40 to 45. We'll take a look at it. But we're going to put it in the oven now, and there she is, ready to go. Well, our bread is out of the oven. I let it sit for 10 minutes before I remove the sides, and you would do the same with your regular springform. Now we'll just let it cool, and we'll cut it and serve it. I think it looks good. Oh, and by the way, I'm fine. After my treatment, see you later. Bye-bye.